Alright everyone, welcome to the channel. So, there's a lot of things that are going to be going on in the crypto and the stock market this week. I thought I'd make a separate video and condense all the news that is going to be going on this week, because the crypto markets, we are at a standstill. We're about to have a big move. Are we going to bounce from these 30,000 levels, or are we going down to the $29,000? Well, in my opinion, all of this news will have a very, very strong impact on what we do in the market. So I'm going to go about this almost in a chronological order, where I go from the news that affects us earliest till the news that affects us last. But I'm actually going to finish on the stock market opening today, because this is the closest news and I believe this will have the most profound effect on the market. So I want to wrap up the video and have you walking away with what to expect today when the stock market opens. So let's jump into the news. Now, to start with, we have the Coinbase earning reports. Now, if you haven't seen this chart before, this is the Coinbase stock. And what do you notice down here? You can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 earnings reports that have played out so far in the market. Now, all of them apart from one have been green. You can see they estimated, and the revenue has been green on all of these earnings reports, and we're coming in for our for our 5th earnings report tomorrow. This is on the 10th of May, so this news should be coming out at some point tomorrow after market close, apparently. So yeah, another 24 to 32 hours really before this comes out, and their estimated earnings are down. So what's interesting about this? Well, bear in mind, Coinbase stock has not been trading for the longest period of time. It started trading in April, and we had good revenue reports, and we were able to maintain a bullish market. At that point, you can see the first revenue report was in the 13th of May, and if we find where Bitcoin was in May, we were capitulating at that moment in time, but we found a bottom, a couple of days after. We confirmed the bottom like a couple of weeks after, and then, we started obviously rallying. So the bullish news on the earnings report did have a good impact on the market, and you can see we got continuation, more bullish reports, and the markets just kept rallying after that. But what happened on the 10th or the 9th of November, after the market closed? What happened? Well, the reports were down by a lot, 18.7%. Huge divergence from their reports. So yeah, very, very brutal earnings report on the 9th. You can see what happened. This was the exact top for Coinbase, and since then it's been rolling down the hill. Why is this important? Why are we looking at specifically Coinbase stock? Well, what happened after the earnings report on the 9th of November when Coinbase started landsliding? Well, if we correlate it, where was the 9th of November? It was literally the day before the all-time high. You can see we pretty much dumped. I imagine we dumped into the earnings report, and then the next day we had dead cat bounce, tried to break bullish again, and that was literally the all-time high. So like I said, why is the Coinbase earnings report important? Well, because historically the only negative earnings report that we've had on Coinbase correlates to the all-time high for Bitcoin, which, as you can imagine, correlates to a lot of the tops in the stock market. Now, am I saying Coinbase is some kind of market leader and the stock market and Bitcoin is doing exclusively what Coinbase does? No, absolutely not. But a plethora of negative news, including a negative Coinbase earnings report, can have profound negative impacts on the market. So, number one, this is one thing that we have to focus on. I will be giving you an update on the earnings report tomorrow night. Bear in mind, it doesn't come out to the evening. So 10th of May, tomorrow, after the market closed. Hopefully this goes in the green, but it is estimated to be in the negative. So this is number one coming in tomorrow, the Coinbase earnings report. Now, what comes the day after that? Like I said, we've got days after days of very important news, and you can see the US Consumer Price Index, the CPI, is coming out tomorrow. The data is scheduled on the May the 11th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So that pretty much means, more or less, by the time I wake up making my first videos, on May the 11th, it does seem like we are going to have the CPI reports. And once again, why is this important? Well, if you don't know, the CPI is basically just a measure of a basket of goods over a period of time. Why is that important to you? Well, it simply means, you know, if you own a house, if you go out and buy shopping, then if the CPI goes up, your basket of goods also increases. You can see over the past 12 months, we've had a lot of changes. You can see food items are up 8.5%, all items are up 8.5% actually, but energy up 32%, and all items less food and energy is 6.5%. So this is just everything else. So everything is up. It's becoming more and more expensive to live an everyday life. They're expecting another 1.2% increase in the CPI in March. Why is this important? They're printing more and more and more and more money, so your money is becoming less and less and less valuable. As the CPI goes up, your goods are becoming more and more expensive. And because the US just raised their interest rates, it's going to be harder and harder to borrow the dollar. If you don't know the interest rates, it simply means, you know, you're, in layman's terms, you're going to be paying more dollars to borrow the same amount of US dollars. So why is this important? Well, historically, stock traders, crypto traders, a lot of rich people, millionaires, companies with millions and billions in backing, they're smart. They avoid, there's ways to avoid paying taxes, and one of the best ways to do that is to leverage debt. There is no tax on debt. If you borrow money from the government, you do not pay tax on it. So you've got billionaires like Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy that for the past couple of years you've been seeing them. They've been borrowing 1.5 billion, they've been borrowing 1 billion, 500 million. They've been buying debt, leveraging it to buy Bitcoin. And because of all this debt leveraging, they've been increasing the interest rate, meaning it's more expensive to buy, or yeah, to basically take on the same amount of debt as before. So, you know, the CPI is going up, the cost of living is going up, your dollar's being devalued. On top of that, they're raising the interest rate. So it's not looking good for the stock market. The stock market is coming down very harshly. So this CPI report is going to be very important. If the CPI keeps on going up and up and up and up, there's going to be less money in the crypto markets. That is just how it is. So we've looked at the Coinbase report coming in tomorrow, and then we've talked about the consumer price index coming in the next day. The most important thing now is what happens with the stock market opening, and this is going to have a very profound impact on what goes on today. As you can see, I mean, Bitcoin is moving down. We've literally taken out the first part of this huge multi-year fractal, putting in touch points all the way back since the 9th of August 2017. You can see the first time we came into this fractal, we perfectly came down to it on the weekly, and boom, we were out of here. So the fact that we've kind of slid below it, we've kind of landslided below it temporarily, as this is such a huge area of resistance. I mean, if we were drawing something on the daily and, you know, we did something like this, and, you know, we temporarily wicked below it and then reversed, it'd be like, you know, so be it, because this has only been out for a couple of months. But this has been out for years. Traders have been looking at this chart for years, and this should have been the zone where lots of buying volume comes in. But what we're seeing right now, we're seeing selling volume. Now, volume is your friend. I mean, it tells you which direction the trend is going. Volume predicts price, as they say. We should have seen a slowdown in buying volume, or selling volume rather, as we do come down to these levels, but we're seeing exponential volume. What does this mean? I mean, you can look at the volume we've already had today. You might be thinking that's not much volume, but bear in mind, at least where I am, it's not even midday, so this could get a lot worse, especially if we do start landsliding. And this brings me to my final point. Like I've been saying, the stock market opening is going to be very profound. I'm going to quickly run through it, just taking, you know, 10-20 seconds to talk about each one. If we come over to the SPX, you can see, I mean, the SPX specifically really needs to have a big reversal. This is going to basically affect what goes on in the Nasdaq, tech stocks, heavily affect what's going on in Facebook, Tesla, Google, Coinbase. The SPY is obviously the derivative of the SPX, so they're pretty much going to follow each other to the teeth anyway. But the SPX leading the rally, we really need to see a reversal back over this point of 4193. If we do just keep breaking down, you can see your lows not much further below us. How far are our lows? Our lows are 1.3%, and considering the past couple of days and weeks we've been moving down like crazy, it wouldn't be unexpected that we could take out the lows. So be very, very cautious, keep your eyes on the stock market. If we look at the Nasdaq, you can also see Nasdaq is breaking down, and I have had this theory where coming into this week at some point, I do believe we are going to have a rally. Now, I could be wrong on that. I'm actually hedging my bets out of the market, not trading. You know, I'm looking at picking up Bitcoin at these levels. I'm not really saying I believe a bounce is coming, so I'm buying and longing and doing all that. I'm really sitting on the sidelines for the most part of it. But I do feel like at some point this week we are going to have a bounce for a plethora of reasons. I talked about this. I don't want to make this too long, but we've now got, you know, 7 weeks in a row where we've closed 6 red weeks in a row. We're now coming in and we're already red on the 7th week. We've never seen anything like this. The most we've had is 5 red weeks. I really do feel like even if we do come down to 29, it would be bought up quickly. And even if we have a dead cat bounce, you know, this is what I'm expecting, because I'm expecting at least 1 green week to come in now. Even if we do have that dead cat bounce, we could, you know, roll back down, and we'll really have to see what goes on in the stock market, which is, like I'm saying, CPI, Coinbase, earnings. These are all going to have a huge impact on what goes on in the market. SPY, basically the same as the SPX on its last level of support, coming down to your tech stocks. This is why I'm pretty bearish. You've had things like Facebook, you know, tech stocks bleeding out since the 3rd of February. You know, these have been leading the rally to the downside. These have been breaking down a lot more harshly than Bitcoin has, and you know, I understand, you know, the terms in percent, it hasn't dropped down as much. I mean, this is down 55%, but this is Facebook. This is a multi-billion-dollar company. They've got billions of dollars in revenue alone, let alone how much they make in profits. I mean, I think their revenue is, I don't want to say it off the top of my head, but I at least know that their profits are coming in round about 30 billion. So this is a huge company making billions a month, and they've been leading the rally to the downside. If I do feel like Bitcoin is going to follow, you can also see seems like the earnings were somewhat neutral coming over to Facebook on this earnings report. Last time they were down, they completely landslided. But yeah, Facebook not looking good, leading the rally. Google not looking good either, pretty much down at the lows. Tesla was down, I think it was 8% in a day the other day. 7%, it closed on 7%. But Tesla is also breaking below very important levels of support. So not all of these have opened, and Coinbase as well, you can see, is literally in price discovery in the downside right now. I think you can see because the estimated earnings report, or the earnings report is estimated to be negative, you can see a lot of selling volume is coming in. This is obviously not today. You know, bear in mind, Coinbase does not trade over the weekends, or at least Coinbase stock does not trade over the weekends. You can see this closed on the 6th, so we should be waiting for this opening to happen today and see what happens if we get continuation. But a lot of people were selling this coming into the weekend, so it's not looking great for the stock market. And the dollar pre-market looks extremely healthy right now. Have we broken above the all-time high? So your previous all-time high in terms of the dollar, we talked about this triple top theory. You can see the all-time high was this orange line. If we zoom into it, have we taken it out? Are we coming back to back test it? We are. So we've made a new all-time high, I believe. Was this from the other day? No, this was from the 9th. I think I meant to put this here where we previously topped out, and as you can see, we've made a new all-time high today on the dollar, which is not good for the stock market. The dollar looks very, very good. You see this line that we're back testing, this is the previous all-time high from like years and years ago. So the dollar showing this amount of strength is very, very worrying for the market. So like I said, we were going to be finishing off on the stock market. We've just run through the stock market. So to summarize, Coinbase earnings report coming out tomorrow. Huge day. If this comes in the negative, it's going to be terrible. CPI, the CPI being, you know, overly bullish. I don't want to say bullish, but, you know, I mean bullish as in, you know, it's going up. The CPI is going up, which is obviously not bullish for the markets, but, you know, if you were just plotting a CPI chart, it would just be going up and up and up. So the CPI going up is not good. That comes in on the 11th. So Coinbase the 10th, CPI the 11th, stock market opening today. This is a very important day. Like I said in yesterday's Bitcoin, the last 24 hours are coming down to us. And the stock market opening that's going to be happening soon is going to pretty much be the decisive factor whether the stock market moves down. That would probably mean that Bitcoin is coming down to at least 29,000 to the bottom of this pattern, in my opinion. So I feel like I made this video quite long, but I did just want to talk about all of my thoughts coming into this week. This is going to be a huge week. Like I said, completely not clickbait. This is really the last 24 hours for Bitcoin. Very dangerous times. If we don't get a quick reversal in the stock market today, it looks like Bitcoin would be coming down to 29,000. Would I be shorting this? No. Would I be selling my Bitcoin? No. Would I be selling my cryptos? No. Would I be including buy orders down at 29,000? Absolutely yes. I really do not see Bitcoin breaking below 29,000. The main reason is there's no volume traded below that, so, you know, 19,000 would have to be where we come down to, and that's never happened before. We've never, you know, made a new all-time high and then come back and back test perfectly the previous all-time high. I mean, you can consider this somewhat of a back test, even though it's above. This is what Bitcoin normally does. It back tests just above the previous all-time high in the bear market, but it never comes back to the all-time high. So if we did, we would be breaking market structure, and I would be very worried. However, 29,000, I have very strong confidence in us not going below there. So keep an eye on the stock market opening. If the stock market opens today and we start landsliding, Bitcoin 29,000 will be on the table. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you found value in this video. As always, cowboy out, not financial advice, and most importantly, peace.